Guys, welcome back to another Am I the A-hole? So, without further ado, let's get into our first story. Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter to school in her pajamas? My 7-year-old daughter, Elsie, has recently started to make mornings more difficult by throwing a fit when we ask her to get dressed for school. We've tried setting her clothes out for the night before, but she still makes an issue out of it and doesn't want to sleep in her clothes, so that's not an option either. My wife leaves for work before me, so I'm normally the one who has to deal with the tantrums in the morning. I woke Elsie up, and as always, she refuses to get dressed. I wasn't really in the mood to deal with her BS, and I didn't have the energy to fight with her about it, so I told her that it was okay and I'll just take her to school in her pajamas. She looked pretty shocked because I don't think it was the outcome she was expecting, but the rest of the morning went a lot smoother than normal. We got in the car and she was more quiet than usual, so I could tell she wasn't really sure what to think of it. But after a while of driving, I guess the realization set in and she told me she wanted to go home and change. I told her she had already made her decision and I wasn't driving back home for now. She started freaking out, saying she wanted me to drive back home and she didn't want to go to school in her pajamas. But I wasn't turning the car around. So we arrived at the school and she eventually went in. After my wife came home from collecting her from school, she looked mad. She didn't say anything in front of Elsie, but later in the evening, as expected, she went off on me. She started saying that I had embarrassed her and made us look like bad parents who can't be bothered to dress our daughter. I told her that I'm sure Elsie isn't the first child to go to school in pajamas and it's not the end of the world. And she wears normal clothes every other day. So one day in pajamas isn't going to make everyone think we're bad parents. She told me she thought it was a cruel thing to do to Elsie, but in my opinion, it was harmless and taught her a lesson. Honestly, no, I don't think you're the a-hole for that. Me having kids myself, and like, I don't blame you for having to deal with that. So, not the a-hole. Story number two. Am I the a-hole for telling my roommate that either his pregnant girlfriend stops whining or he moves out? I, Mel 28, live in an apartment that I got from my uncle. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, so as I don't need the extra space, I rented the room. My roommate, Mel 24, has been living with me for a little over a year and a half. He's been dating his girlfriend, female 24, as well, I believe, for like 5 or so years. She lives in another house and has 4 roommates herself. As our house is more crowded, my roommate asked me if it was okay if she stayed over sometimes. I agreed since I don't really have a problem with it at all, as long as they're respectful. We haven't had any major issues until now, but his girlfriend got pregnant. He told me, and I was like, oh, great, congratulations. He did try to bring up a conversation to see if I allowed her to move in with him slash us, but I said no. I work from home most of the time. I don't want to deal with a third person or a newborn in the future. He asked me if she could still come and stay some nights. As before, I said that was fine. She's like 4 or so months along her pregnancy. Well, last 3 months, she was grown to be very annoying whenever she's staying over. What I mean is that I got woken up in the middle of the night slash early morning too many times because she's running to the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I don't use the bathroom. I have my own connected to my room, but my guests sometimes use it, and they have said that it's dirty and messy. She's staying over a lot more nights than she used to before. And the biggest problem is that she has developed really bad nausea. Even now, she's still having morning sickness, which I believe must have stopped already. We've many issues regarding food because my roommate and her asked me to stop having some foods that get her sick. I told her that this is not her house. She has no right to come in and expect me to change my diet because of her. They took that very badly. I continued my life as normally. She always complains and runs to the bathroom when I cook. There have been a couple of times when she has actually thrown up on the floor too, which is disgusting. I'm sick of it, to be honest, so I told my roommate that either she stops coming over, she stops complaining, or he moves out. I would give him a month or two if he needs it to find somewhere else to live, but I'm tired of having his girlfriend over. She's annoying me. He, of course, got very upset and said that she wouldn't annoy me so much if I was more understanding of her condition. Said that they're not in a comfortable position to move, that she's sick and needs his support, and all of that. Some of my friends slash coworkers and family are on my side, but some others said that I'm behaving like a total a-hole, and I could easily change my diet for a couple months. Am I the a-hole? I mean, honestly, I don't think so. I mean, I understand her getting sick and all that, but it's really not your problem and it's your house. Um, I don't think so. My opinion. Story number 2. Am I the a-hole for not letting my brother bring a plus one to my wedding? My brother and I have had a distant relationship because he lives overseas, and we haven't talked in 2 years due to him changing his phone number without sharing the new one. He's also known for having short term relationships, with the longest one lasting over 1.5 years. Recently, he's started dating a coworker at his temporary work site where he moves to a different country every 3 to 4 months. Now, my wedding is just around the corner and we finalized 90% of the arrangements. We've been working tirelessly and saving up just enough money to cover the expenses ourselves. No financial help from the family. Here's the problem. My brother returned home from a visit after 2 years and joined us for a dinner with my mother, her boyfriend, some family friends, and me. During the conversation about my wedding, I mentioned that it's going to be a small event with only close relatives and their long term partners, dating for at least a year due to budget constraints. Out of nowhere, my brother announced that he'd be bringing a plus one to the wedding. I was taken aback and asked when he got a girlfriend, as this was the first I've heard of it. His response, "She's really not a girlfriend. We're not that serious. We're just friends." I firmly told him, "No, you can't bring a friend. It's for serious partners only." He got upset, saying, "I won't attend your wedding if that's what you want." I said why he expected a plus one when he hadn't told till now she wasn't a girlfriend. My mom jumped in and insisted that he should have a plus one. I explained that I had no knowledge of this person, had never seen a photo, didn't even know her name, and simply couldn't afford to pay for someone who wasn't even his girlfriend. My brother then made a hurtful comment comparing my behavior to our abusive father, which really hurt me. I replied, "If you feel that way, then don't come. It's your choice." My mother's boyfriend joined the conversation, urging me to allow my brother to bring his plus one. I stood my ground, stating that it wasn't up for discussion, as it's my wedding and I'm struggling to cover the cost. My mother then told me I was selfish, and my brother kept repeating that he's not coming. Later that night, as we were packing up, my mom suggested I get a mortgage to cover the wedding expenses. Insisting that my brother would bring a plus one, I responded at the very least I would consider it if she were his girlfriend, but she is a friend. We won't go into debt for the wedding, and it's my wedding, so you can't dictate what I do when I'm paying for it. My mother then accused me of being selfish, damaging my relationship with my brother, and being overly dramatic. I mean, if you're paying for your wedding yourself, it's huge and it costs a lot, I can imagine. I've never been married, but I don't blame you though. I mean, especially if you guys don't really talk and he doesn't share you his new phone number, that's really weird. But I don't think you're the a hole. I mean, you're paying for it yourself, like I said, so not the a hole, sir. Not in my book. Thanks, guys. Subscribe for more videos.